Yakutsk is not so much built upon the land as it is anchored into it, a city gripping the permanent frost of eastern Siberia. It lies in the vast, low-lying Lena River Valley, a sprawling plain that acts as a natural basin for the coldest, heaviest air on the planet. The mighty, meandering Lena River itself, one of the longest rivers in the world, is the city's lifeline in summer and a frozen, solid highway in the long winter. The urban center is perched on the river's western bank, a dense cluster of Soviet-era blocks and modern structures all raised on stilts to avoid melting the unstable permafrost below. This permafrost, ground-frozen solid to depths of hundreds of meters, is the very foundation of everything, a constant and unyielding fact of life. To the south and east, the land rises gently into rolling hills and the vast, dark taiga forest, creating a breathtaking, if brutally inhospitable, amphitheater of cold. In Yakutsk, love doesn't bloom. It freezes, captured in the crystalline air like a diamond. Here in the coldest city on Earth, where a single deep breath feels like inhaling shattered glass, and the winter sky is a relentless, pale dome, the simple act of holding hands requires layers of fur and a shared unspoken defiance. This is the story of Anya and Mikhail and their love forged not in the warmth of a summer sun, but in the brutal, beautiful -50°C heart of Siberia. Their day began not with an alarm, but with a ritual. Mikhail woke first, as always, to the sound of the ice on the inside of his window pane cracking as the indoor heat fought its eternal war with the outside cold. His small apartment, like every building in Yakutsk, was raised on stilts driven deep into the permafrost, the permanently frozen ground that underpins the entire city. To build on it directly would be to melt it, dooming the structure to a slow, sinking collapse. He pulled on his base layers of wool, then his heavy trousers, and finally his doha, a colossal knee-length coat of reindeer fur, the only thing that could stand between a man and the air that could kill him in minutes. Before he could think of Anya, he had to tend to his car. Outside, his old SUV was plugged into a spiderweb of electrical cables that snaked across the parking lot lifelines to the city's power grid. Every vehicle in Yakutsk is equipped with a potograph, an engine block heater, and without it being plugged in overnight, the oil would turn to sludge and the battery would die, entombing the car in ice until spring. He started it, listening to the engine groan in protest, knowing it would have to run continuously for the next 10 minutes just to be safe to drive. His destination was the Leninsky Market, the frozen soul of the city. Here, the reality of life in Yakutsk was laid bare. There were no refrigerators, the entire market was one. Sturgeon and Nelma fish were stacked like cordwood, frozen solid, their eyes glazed over with a permanent frost. Vendors sold slabs of frozen raw horse meat and reindeer, hacked apart with axes. This high-fat, high-protein diet was not a choice but a necessity, the fuel required to stoke the human furnace against the cold. Fresh fruit and vegetables were exotic, flown-in luxuries, their prices as eye-watering as the cold. Mikhail bought Stroganina shavings of frozen raw fish, a Yakut delicacy for his date with Anya later. Meanwhile, Anya was preparing for her day as a tour guide. Her ritual was just as precise. After layering up, the final touch was her footwear. She pulled on her Yusuki, traditional boots made of reindeer leg fur, the long hairs creating a natural barrier against snow. No modern synthetic could replicate their insulation. She then spent a full 15 minutes meticulously covering every inch of exposed skin, a balaclava, a giant fur hat, shapka, and goggles. To forget a single spot was to invite frostbite. Their meeting was at the Kingdom of Permafrost Museum, a tunnel dug into the eternal ice of a nearby cliff. As they greeted each other, their breath erupted in thick, white plumes that hung in the air, a phenomenon known as ice fog. At these temperatures, exhaled moisture freezes instantly, creating a personal, fleeting cloud around every person. "Your nose is white," Mikhail said, his voice muffled by his scarf. It was a statement of fact, not an insult. Anya quickly rubbed the tip of her nose with a fur-covered glove, restoring circulation. It was a common, intimate gesture here, a lover's check for the first signs of freezing. Inside the museum, the air was a balmy -10°C. They walked past glittering ice sculptures, their hands encased in massive mittens, finding each other. This was their world in microcosm, a civilization carved directly into the cold that defined it. "I have a surprise," Mikhail said later. As they drove across the frozen Lena River, the ice road was the city's main artery in winter, a temporary highway over water dozens of meters deep. Anya, despite her bravery, always held her breath for a moment. The sheer, Surreal reality of driving over a frozen river never feeling normal. He pulled over at a secluded spot, the sun already setting at 2 p.m. in the deep winter afternoon. The twilight cast the snow in shades of blue and violet. He set up a small propane-powered camp stove. No wood fire could be lit in this cold, and brewed a pot of strong, sweet tea. He then produced the straganina. They sat on a fur rug laid over the snow, their bodies huddled together for warmth, eating the delicate frozen shavings that melted on their tongues. This was their romance. Not a candlelit dinner, but a shared act of defiance. Their conversation wasn't just of dreams, but of survival. He told her he had finally saved enough to build a proper banya, a log sauna, in his yard. She spoke of her brother who had lost the tip of his ear to frostbite after his car broke down last week. Their love was woven into the fabric of this extreme life. As the stars emerged, impossibly bright in the pollution-free sky, the cold began to win. The tea froze in its cup. The moisture from their breath had coated their eyelashes and the fur around their hoods in a delicate, beautiful frost. It was time to go. To stay was to die. Back at her apartment door, a mundane ritual became their most intimate moment. They couldn't kiss. Their faces were too covered. Instead, they pressed their foreheads together, the thick fur of their hats mingling. They stood like that for a long moment, two figures swaddled against the world, sharing the warmth from the one place it could escape their minds. "I'll see you tomorrow," he said. "Don't forget to plug in your car," she replied. In Yakutsk, the coldest city on Earth, love isn't whispered. It's demonstrated in the plug of an engine block heater, in the shared shivering over a cup of tea on a frozen river, and in the vigilant watch over a lover's nose for the deadly white of frostbite. It is a love that knows the price of warmth, and in that knowledge burns all the fiercer.